Hey guys, wanted to talk about the title of my video here. 90% of you guys out there will go to a FEMA camp willingly, and I'm going to give out my reasons here right now. For most part, it's just lack of education on the subject. A lot of people will throw out the word conspiracy theory and all this garbage, but you know what, it comes down to something really basic. A lot of people just follow what the government says, definitely in a time of crisis, and especially if you guys are poor, don't have anything. You guys are just gonna feed right into the narrative. They want you to be fed, and then you're going to go to one of these camps. FEMA camps, and then from there on out, it's going to be an absolute hellish nightmare. And what would cause all this? It would be some kind of disaster or hoax disaster that they pull off. And why do they want to do this? Well, depopulation, control, power, the old, same old, same old. They're not worried about money, guys, because they can print money from nothing. They own the printing presses, so it's a joke. And all this debt the country's in doesn't seem to matter. Especially when Donald Trump is pumping out, well, he's going to just print off some more money, increase the military budget. And remember, guys, a lot of that money is definitely going to be going to, upgrades of your guys' military and so forth. But it's also going to go to a lot of black projects, off-the-book projects, FEMA projects, like FEMA camps. Alrighty guys, we're back. So getting into the FEMA camps, there was it's an older show now. It was called Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura. They went and did a bunch of investigations. One of the investigations was on FEMA camps, and Mr. Alex Jones joined Jesse on that particular episode, and they actually visited a real-life black site FEMA camp. What did they discover? They discovered a lot, and they found large plastic coffin containers which I'll throw some pictures up here for you guys. And basically, these containers would fit roughly a family of 4 per container. There was thousands of these set up behind, near train tracks, and behind a fence with barbed wire, but they got in somehow because there was an opening, and they were checking these things out. And after the episode aired on television, well, that's when basically the people in charge panicked. They got exposed, and they proceeded to pull the episode permanently from the TV waves. And there was lawsuits filed. His show was later canceled, and they were told to do more goofy investigations, which would in turn help cancel the television show because the ratings would drop. And it was insane, guys. You guys can look it up. It's on YouTube somewhere. Conspiracy Theory with Jesse Ventura, FEMA camps. Search that up, check it out. See exactly what we're talking about. And it's out there, guys. This is not, it's not conspiracy, guys. It's not a theory. It's factual. They were there. They filmed it. They got their show taken off the air. They got lawsuits, etc., etc. So, how is this able to go on inside a government legally? Oh, it's legally. They can do it because it's the federal government. They just classify everything as a need to know. It's what do they call that? Military preparedness. No, it's not really military preparedness, but it's some kind of quote in there, some kind of weird lawyer talk. Anyway, 90% of you guys are gonna, unfortunately, turn yourselves over willingly to these camps. In these camps, what do you expect these coffins to be for? Probably not just as a decoration piece around the yard. And if they can fit, and there's basically specially designed coffins that hold a lot of bodies. Roughly 4 to 5 bodies per coffin is the estimation. There, in one of my photos I showed a guy was laying down inside of one. And you could easily, depending on how heavy each person is that you put inside, as in their weight and mass, you could easily get 4 or 5 people in there and a ton of kids into one of these coffins. Think about that, guys. You want your family and kids stuffed in one of these with a bunch of random people. The sick part is about this, well, guess what? I think the government was thinking, well, hey, let's build these coffins. They'll fit roughly a family of 4 on average. At least the family will be buried together, right? Easier for processing. The other thing I wanted to touch on, why you guys would go willingly to the FEMA camps, lack of education. I want to get into that a little bit. So, you may have heard the term prepper, survivalist preparedness on the internet, and most people will give you the usual garbage on that. All these people are crazy, they're in a cult, whatever, or it's another conspiracy theory. Well, guess what? The people who are preppers, survivalists, homesteaders will take care of themselves and will not willingly go to a FEMA camp if they're educated. They'll have everything they need at their fingertips. They won't be having their hand out begging at the government gates to get into one of these for the government to provide for them. Sure, one of these camps, hey, maybe you got a place to sleep and some food, but for how long? And what do the government want in return? Anybody remember concentration camps? Yeah, just look at history, guys. History repeats itself. When the government gets out of control and they want to stay in power, guess what's going to happen? They're going to do whatever they can in order to keep that power. And that's just the way it is. And they got an agenda anyway. They want to depopulate the planet because of global warming, which I myself I don't believe in it at all. It is springtime here in Canada, and it's still free. We still got frost on the ground, guys. It's freaking cold out. I got a toque on. See that? if we get any moisture coming around our area, it will snow. That's how cold it is, all right? And we're beyond, like, we're into spring by a good week or two. So, whatever. That's probably got something to do with this grand solar minimum, but that's another video for another time. I'll get back into it in a bit. Let's talk about tactics the government may use to get you into a FEMA camp. Fear tactics, of course. Be 24/7 broadcast on television, radio, internet programs to find your local nearest FEMA center. Don't bring anything. Just bring your government ID, paperwork, and what I mean by government ID, I mean social insurance card, driver's license, etc., etc. And that way, they don't have a bunch of people bringing a bunch of stuff that they're not going to use anyway. They just want to keep track of who's still alive, who's done, etc., etc. Paperwork, it's the government. Sick PSYOP tactics to attract people to FEMA camps. Free Wi-Fi. Your local FEMA camp now has free Wi-Fi when every other service is down. We have electricity at your local FEMA camp. Plug in that cell phone. Highly doubt they will allow you to keep any of your private property when entering a FEMA camp. Most likely you're going to have to sign your life away at the door by showing up and getting help, free rations of slop, if and all possible, a bed to sleep on, with hundreds of other people, right? And probably slave labor until your usefulness is up, and then they'll throw you with your family in one of those coffins. And who knows what they're going to do to the kids. You know, pedo is rampant in the government, so you got to watch out for that. Oh yeah, come to the FEMA camp. We still have Starbucks. Get that soy boy latte. Get a soy latte, guys. We have coffee. Come to the FEMA camp. It's going to be a ton of different tactics that'll speak to, you know, some sense of necessity for you guys out there. What do you guys like? Obviously, most of you like the internet, but even if they give you some type of internet at a FEMA camp, which I highly doubt anyway, like I just said, you're probably not going to be able to keep your cell phone when you're in there, or any communication device. Most likely, it's going to be a highly censored internet where you can only visit government web pages or crap they feed you. Be back in a sec. Alright, so tactics the government will use when you're inside a FEMA camp, possibly. There's some of my thoughts on that. Obviously, in cult situations, they keep you from the outside world, and that will definitely happen in the FEMA camp, because this is going to be a place where you just can't come and go as you please. Think of it as a supermax. Or worse, concentration camp. Once you sign your life away and get registered and is in there, most likely they're going to put a little barcode or bar stamp on you just to keep track, or maybe even chip you with an RFID. Most likely they'll lean to the newer technology, something like that. Then, when people think they're gonna, you know, do what they want, there's gonna be their own inside rules that will probably violate most and all of you guys' constitutional rights, because you waive those at the door getting into this place. So you ain't going to be carrying your gun around. You're not going to be doing anything. You're not going to be talking back, because there's going to be consequences to those things. Just look at the concentration camp documentaries for reference on possible torture and punishment, etc., etc. They will also feed you a narrative while in the FEMA camp to make you feel more comfortable living there than anywhere else. Probably they will broadcast over speakers or hoax radio events that maybe this city's been nuked, whatever. They're going to hoax it, so they want to keep you right where you're at, safe and comfy on your single mattress with, 4 other people, probably your family if they don't separate you guys at the door. And most likely they're going to separate people at the door because they don't want families sticking together in there. Now, the FEMA staff, military or Blacklist staff, they're there because guess what? They've been promised something, probably freedom for their family. So they're going to take yours away, keep you under control. Therefore, they're going to do whatever they're told, even if that means taking your boy out back and putting a cap in him and then throwing him in a pit with one of those coffins with a bunch of other random kids that misbehaved. So just think about that, guys. It's real, it's sick. I know 90% of you don't even want to think about something like this. But guess what? They have them. And guess who paid for these FEMA camps, guys? You guys did, the taxpayer. 90% of you may use the FEMA camps, but 100% of you paid for them. Unless you're totally off the grid and don't have a social insurance number or a job and live in the forest somewhere free. Though likely you won't be seeing this video if you do that. So it's a situation nobody wants to be in. And let's talk about, okay, now that we know the dangers of a FEMA camp, let's talk about how to prevent yourself and your family from going to a FEMA camp. Well, first off, education. The internet is a pretty wonderful place for educating yourself on the subject. Now, there's going to be a lot of naysayers out there, but then you just scroll past those videos because they're going to be the first ones inside the FEMA camps, and when they figure it out, it's going to be too late. So education, guys. Alternative media sources, look them up all over YouTube, all over the internet. Get as much info as you can on these FEMA camps. Next, the people I talked about earlier about prepping, survival, preparedness, homesteading. These are the people who can survive during an emergency situation and don't need to be running anywhere. They don't need to be going to a FEMA camp because these people simply took steps ahead of time to put some stuff away in case of an emergency. Say the power goes out for 6 months. What do you guys got around your place to comfortably survive and stay put? Or what do you guys have set up to go to another location where you can live in a small cabin or something and survive comfortably? That's something to think about as well. Those are called bug out locations. When you bug out, it means you're taking your belongings and survival materials and going to an undisclosed location from, you know, only your immediate people that are involved, and you hold up there until, you know, well, I'd hold up there as long as possible. If you can sustain yourself there, do it. Prepping. Start thinking about buying survival items, practicing with them, and getting good at maybe camping. Go out on a weekend with your family, buy some survival items, make it a go, see if you guys can survive comfortably for a weekend out in a park somewhere, and test out your survival items that you recently bought. Can your kids start a fire? If you're injured, can you start a fire one-handed? Can your wife start a fire? You know, all these things. And I'm talking more than a Bic lighter, guys. I'm talking a ferromagnesium rod. I'm talking bow and hand drill. All kinds of different items. And there's a ton of survival teaching material on YouTube and elsewhere that you guys can educate yourself with. I highly recommend it. Now, food and water. Let's talk about the threes, guys. 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, 30 days without food. Remember those. Run those back through your head again. Water is more important than food. If you do not have water in 3 days, your body shuts down. Your organs need water to function properly. And if you're not getting it, about day 2, you're going to feel so bad that, guess what? You're probably not going to go looking for water. That's how bad things are going to get on day 2 of that. Oxygen, can't do much about that. Like I say, if they drop a bioweapon or something, guess what? Most people don't have quality gas masks that will protect you from whatever they're dropping. And most likely they'll be dropping something that is not even public anyway. So it's pretty hard to prep for that, especially nuclear, unless you're a billionaire and got a bunker somewhere. So I'm not even going to touch those subjects. Think about the short term though, guys. Can I comfortably live without power, without heat, without air conditioning? Does my family require medications? Time to stock up. And if you have medications that require refrigeration and expiry date, research into alternatives. That's what I can tell you, guys. Alright guys, let's talk about how the FEMA camp will keep you guys obedient inside while you're enjoying your stay. Well, they're probably going to have a schedule for everybody to be doing some type of chore, task, or whatever. Laundry for the women, playtimes for the kids. They have the men working on something. And then they're going to tempt people. Let's say your wife doesn't play ball or is really having a hard time processing living at this new location away from the family, separated. Well, they're going to punish her by cutting her rations, her food rations, maybe her water rations, and even punish her by time with the family. They're going to use that. I'm pretty sure they're going to use that. If you play ball at the FEMA camp, you may get to see your kids for an hour or see your husband for an hour. But highly doubt you're going to have any quality time with them at a substantial amount of time with them. They're gonna want to have a lot of control, keep everybody separated, kids with kids, dads with dads, women with women. And it may fail and blow up in the FEMA's face, but I'm guessing they're going to have some type of system like that. Alright guys, so let's recap. 90% of the public, I may be wrong, it may be even higher than that, will willingly go to a FEMA camp with their family and depend on the government to take care of them. And the government will do such a good job at doing that. So, what have you learned in this video? Well, you learned a little bit about FEMA camps, and you learned about getting educated about them more than what I can do. You learned about getting prepared. Can your family survive for up to a year minimum on the supplies you guys have currently in your house? If the answer is no, you're going to be getting busy pretty shortly if you're serious. So, get educated, get some skills on surviving comfortably with you and your family. Get a plan together. Something like this happens, so let's say tomorrow, some broadcast on the news saying, uh-oh, a nuke went off here. Come to your local FEMA camp at yada yada yada. Are you gonna go after hearing this video? That's up to you guys to decide. I know I won't be. And since I'm in Canada, guys, remember there's camps here too. This is like a North American deal. I wouldn't worry about Mexico. That's the last thing anybody's worried about. But so I just want to put this video out there. You guys, hopefully you learned something. And please thumb up, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.